to Studio Sessions. I'm Brooke, and every week on Wednesdays, we talk about the film industry and many different things surrounding the film industry. So, this week, I want to talk about a very, very close to my heart topic and answer a question that I feel like I've kind of touched on, but we haven't gone into detail. And I also kind of want your input as well and your thoughts on this topic to see how you feel about it. Some of this is going to be personal preference, some of it is going to be what you can tell from numbers is the level of interest in this kind of thing and where it might work and where it doesn't. So, let's just jump to it. Question we're answering is nostalgia helping or hurting films? So I did a couple of episodes ago a whole rundown on the movies for 2026 that I'm excited about. Just the previous episode, I had mentioned some of the things that I hoped to see more of and less of in the film industry in 2026. And one of those things I hoped to not see as much of or not become a crutch, not be so leaned into was remakes, reboots, live actions, all of those types of things. And then in that episode where I talked about the movies I was excited for 2026, I said Toy Story 5, Devil Wears Prada 2, and the second Mario movie, which are not wrong. Those are legitimately the ones that I'm excited about. That and Scream 7. So as you can see, there's a bit of a paradox there. Like there's a conflict with those two things. I want to see less of it, but I'm also really excited for the ones that we're getting this year. I did explain a little further that I feel like there's a difference in approach with these specific ones. That it doesn't feel like they're reaching for an audience. It feels like they're meeting the audience where they're at. And I think that's a key difference. So, we're going to talk about it. So, let's talk about the first part. Does nostalgia help films? How does it help films? Why might it help a film? Well, funnily enough, there's been a lot of nostalgia popping up for me lately for things from my childhood. And one of the uh, conversations I had with my aunt was about a sweatshirt in Target that had Polly Pocket on it. And this was for women, not in the kids section. This was for women, and it had Polly Pocket on it. And I made the comment, it's for us millennials. We love our nostalgia. It is so true. Like, I think everybody loves some kind of nostalgia, right? Like, nostalgia in general gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's familiar. You're remembering something funny or good or that you were really excited about, like things that you enjoyed, right? Typically, is what you're looking back on in nostalgia. And particularly right now, I'm seeing a lot of nostalgia from my fellow millennials, us 90s kids who are remembering like the shows on Disney Channel and the kids movies we watched and buying CDs, all of those things. And so I think the way that nostalgia helps films is it brings something familiar to the table. This is something I don't need to wonder what it is. I know what that is. Toy Story 5, I know who I'm going to see in it, right? Like there may be new characters. I may not know the full details of the plot, but I know I'm going to see Woody, Buzz, Jesse, Bo Peep, like Slinky Dog. I know these characters. I know this world. And particularly, what I think is helpful for the Toy Story 5 plotline, if you watch the trailer, is it has the whole Toy Story series has grown up with the adults almost, but while also still being a kids movie. So like uh, I watched the first Toy Story as a child. I'm still now just as invested in watching them along with my kid. And for example, the storyline of Andy going to college was very much in line with the kids who initially watched Toy Story being that age. And now, for Toy Story 5, the plot line is iPads and technology. And this is where I feel like they're kind of feeding that millennial parent. It is a very relevant thing for us as parents navigating toys versus technology, traditional concrete play versus electronics, right? Like that is a very relevant conversation and one that specifically the audience who grew up on the original Toy Story movie are answering for themselves as parents having to navigate it. It's brilliant. Not only do I think this is going to be a very, very good situation for some funny things to happen, but it's also just incredibly, incredibly relevant and going to feel like, oh my gosh, I know this conversation. The familiarity of nostalgia is, I feel like, where it benefits film. I think that's the main through line for why that idea can be successful. And it's also some level of, probably mostly a level of, oh, well, this worked really well before. Like, these were really popular. If we do more of it, it'll be just as popular. And this idea of the stories that feel familiar, that give us comfort, that really stick with us, isn't just in movies. On the podcast Coffee and Turner Syndrome, we hear stories that really stick with us and are really powerful just from people's lived experiences with Turner syndrome. So, if you are interested in powerful stories, you want to hear some of those from real experiences, you can head over to the Coffee and Turner Syndrome podcast, and we release episodes each week. Now let's flip to the other side, where nostalgia hurts film. And this is the key difference for me, is when it's leaned too hard into for an audience that isn't seeking it for that. Like a live action version of all of these other old movies from our childhood that, sure, we loved, but it just wasn't meeting the audience where they were. There's a key difference with that. I feel like there's a balance in nostalgia and meeting an audience where they are. Now, the other element of this is infusing life into that thing, right? Like Toy Story 5, just to be another Toy Story, could be way less meeting your audience where you're at if it wasn't a parenting scenario that that generation is currently dealing with, right? Like if it wasn't fresh and relevant in some other way besides, oh, I love Toy Story. There's got to be more. And so that's where missing that mark can really hurt it, because if you lean too hard in, you're giving all of these Easter eggs towards it. Like if the movie is just one big Easter egg to the other movie, it's not going to work well. There's got to be something new, something fresh, some other reason why we're revisiting this, particularly if it's been a while. But even if it's not, like this is what also can easily fall into issues with sequels. A nostalgia movie cannot be a nostalgia movie just for nostalgia's sake. There's got to be some fresh, relevant reason to revisit that and bring it into a more current context. Bring it into our lives now and connect the two. That's the sweet spot of nostalgia. And so that's why those movies that I listed are ones that I actually do think are going to do that really well. I am hopeful they will. And I am really looking forward to them. At the same time, I think you do have to be careful with that. There have been other movies that just felt like it was one big rehash of the same thing as before. Or it just called back to it over and over and over again the whole movie. And it didn't feel like its own thing at all. And that's been a conundrum that I think has been happening for a while. And something that, while I love nostalgia, I do see as being an important balance to find. So I think there are scenarios where both happen, where nostalgia helps, and also scenarios where nostalgia hurts films. And as there's been so much looking back done, I think that's a fine line to walk. You have to do it well. You have to be very self aware, which honestly, the Scream movies have historically been really good at. And another reason I'm excited. Also, I think there is an element of getting back to things that worked before that aren't being done as much now. The other aspect that I feel like nostalgia brings in that has impacted the film industry a lot lately and is kind of what I've talked about feeling like is the biggest crutch right now is there is so much risk aversion and risk avoidance happening that they're clinging to proven IP that's already proven successful instead of trying new creative things. And for that reason, nostalgia gets played into a lot more. And also is at a higher risk of not being done well because they're trying so hard to make the nostalgia count enough to make the film successful. And I think I think that's part of what makes me hesitant about nostalgia and part of why I said I wanted to see more new creative things rather than more sequels, more reboots or anything like that. But like I said, this batch that I've named for the ones I'm excited for feel a little different. And I know probably like, well, of course, you're excited for them. You're going to think it's different. But I do think the audiences for those are there, right? Like it's not some random out of the blue announced thing. Like this has been things people were looking for. Like everybody wanted to see Nev Campbell come back to Scream. And I do think that that is something that if done well can be really good and can bring new life to something. It's not rehashing what you're nostalgic for. It's breathing new life into it. It's putting it in a fresh context. And that's new and creative in and of itself. That brings more creativity into it. So I feel like this is something we'll see evolving. I don't think this is going to be something that ends anytime soon. And I think it'll be an interesting ride to see what comes from it now. I think this whole thing kind of peaked during the streaming wars, the height of it, like where everybody was scrambling for subscribers and audience attention, like where everybody was just fighting to win the streaming war. And now it's kind of almost started leveling out where they're like, okay, we need to readjust to move forward. And so hopefully this can be a sign of good things. Like I mentioned in earlier episodes, also, I am hopeful. I am very hopeful. So as I plan projects, this will be things that I think about. This will be an element of things that I have in my mind. And so I thought it was an interesting take, an interesting topic to look at and kind of question to answer. Like, when does it help? When does it hurt? because there's scenarios of both. And I hope this was interesting to you as well. And if you like nostalgia, let me know. If you feel like there are some that have done it well, let me know what ones you feel like have done it well. And if you were excited to see any of the ones coming up this year, let me know in a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. And we will be back for another episode next week. Bye. The Studio Sessions is a Butterfly Entertainment production. You can keep up with all of our podcasts, YouTube videos, films, and other projects on our Instagram page. We are at Butterfly Entertainment Group. Thanks for listening.